All right, we'll start in about a minute or so.
Hi, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the September CAG meeting. Thank you for making the time to be here. Without further ado, I will hand it over to Desiree.
Hi, everyone. Let me share my screen. Hold on a second. Okay. Good. Thanks, Paula. Great. Okay. So welcome, everyone. Let me see. So welcome to the 25th Community Advisory Group meeting on September 29th, 2022. I'm Desiree Gazzo with HNTB Lero, the program management construction management company for the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project. We have a very brief update this month because we had both the CB3 meeting 2 weeks ago and the CB6 meeting, so not much had changed since those two meetings. So again, it is a brief meeting, and it's basically just an update on a couple of items. So let's see. All right, great. So project area overview, I think everyone is familiar with that. The ESCR focus area topics, these are the ones that we'll be highlighting today. So the first is the hiring compliance. And these are a few work with us events that we'd like to highlight. So Henry Street Settlement, who we partner with on lots of our projects, is holding an in-person job fair on October 4th from 2 to 5 p.m. There will be representatives from the project there. So we encourage people to, that are interested in jobs to please attend that. On October 19th, we will have the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Quarterly Information Session. This will be our first in-person presentation or session. It will focus on career pathways within the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project. We did issue a save the date just the other week, and we will have more information on the website either by tomorrow or early next week. We were just buttoning up a couple of details on the location. So again, once that's all resolved, then we will put more information, but nonetheless, it will be October 19th from about 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. It will not be all day, so I will update that. My apologies. So I'll take care of that before we post it on the website, but it is 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. The 28th annual 2022 Competitive Edge Conference, that is a full day conference. It is geared more toward MWBEs, DBEs, and contractors. That event is a full day event and will begin at 9 a.m. and go through to 3 p.m. That is on October 31st, which is Halloween. But you could find more. These are all links. So when we do post the presentation, then you'll be able to have direct links to that, which will be, again, it'll be up tomorrow sometime. This is a screenshot of our Work With Us webpage. So again, we just wanted to remind everyone that there are a few job openings that are available right now. Senior Inspector with the H&T Bolero team, Administrative Assistant with IPC, which is the PA1 contractor, and then Payroll Specialist with IPC. So the job descriptions are on the online portal. And if you have any questions on hiring, you can click that link there. And then the next hiring update will be provided in October. Also, yesterday, DDC held a kind of meet the teams forum, again, mostly geared towards MWBEs. We shared that information in the past on the weekly e-blasts. But that was a recorded event, and that information, I think it was a recorded event. If not, the slides will be made available from that presentation. So again, we could share that once we have that link. So again, very quickly, we'll just get into project area overview, construction updates, and then as usual, the air quality monitoring update. For project area overview, not much has changed again since the CB3 meeting or the CB6 meeting. The only thing that really has changed is that Murphy Brothers work started the beginning of this week. So that's good. And then the parallel conveyance notice to proceed was issued on September 13th. And then construction start is anticipated again later in the year, and the duration is approximately 4 years. So we will be again presenting to the community boards on that once there is more information. So again, when there is more information, we will have that to present. But again, notice to proceed does not mean that work will begin, tomorrow or this month. There is still a lot of things that the contractor needs to square away before construction will actually begin. So I know everyone is, very eager to hear what parts of PC will begin first. So again, once we have that information, we will come back and share that. For PA2 construction progress, again, we're familiar with this illustration, and again, the work is finishing up in Sty Cove Park, in the northern part of Sty Cove Park, and that will open again, or it's anticipated to open in November once the planting is done. Murphy Brothers work just started, and then work will continue down in Stuyvesant Cove Park to the south. So hopefully by the next CAG meeting, this map image with the work areas will change. We did just present to CB6 last week. The presentation is up on the ESCR website. And there we presented updated construction photos. So if you are interested in a more of a deeper dive into CB6 progress, please go visit that presentation. For PA2, the Greenway access, we have been presenting that there will be an upcoming change in the Greenway access once the northern part is open. So this is the current Greenway access, which everyone is very familiar with by now. And then this is the look ahead, which is what we've presented again the past couple of CB and CAG meetings. So it does seem like this or some version of this, again, this is draft in progress. It has been labeled as that in the past as well. But essentially, the Greenway between 20th and 23rd Street will reopen sometime next month, again, mid to late October. And then it will change that detour and what that looks like. Also, again, sometime mid to late October, the access between PA1 and PA2 may be closed off. So that way the PA2 contractor can finish that work in the southern portion here. So we are working in coordination with DOT now. And as we coordinate with them, we will have more details and dates to let you know of. Oops, sorry about that. So again, this is the same detour that we've been presenting. It still is in progress. And as we have more information, an advisory will be issued. We'll let Paula and Tara know, and that information will be shared with the CAG. So for PA1 construction progress, this is a graphic that we're hoping will be, more similar to the graphic that we show monthly for PA2. So it is kind of an illustrative graphic of the progress of construction work. It has the green areas are essentially the East River Park proper, the main portion of East River Park. The blue lines here are the bridges and overpasses, and then the flood walls and floodgates are this kind of beige line here. There are a few up here in the north, but we didn't delineate that here. This is the main portion that's happening currently. So again, we did have the more detailed schedule, which we had provided in the past. This is a little more presentation friendly, and it's based off of that schedule. And we'll, use this similar to PA2 to show kind of that progress and speak to the progress of the project moving forward. For October 22 construction activities, the work is pretty much progressing in a steady fashion. Not much has changed. The soil stabilization activities, esplanade dismantling, and deep sewer activities are continuing. The Delancey Street utility pile and abutment work on the park side is moving forward, as well as the Corlier's Hook installation for the new bridge. There is the passive lawn partial closure for utility work. Con Ed work is moving forward near Montgomery Street and South Street. I know there was a bit of a concern with some of where their barricades were today, so we're resolving that for anyone who's in the Gouverneur Garden area. And then the Con Ed work is continuing, in the shared use path through to East 10th Street. The Montgomery Street and Cherry Street Greenway floodwall activities are in progress. The pile installed there. Amphitheater asbestos abatement is ongoing. And then again, please see the weekly bulletins and advisories with week-to-week updated construction activities. So the AQM, so we're not going to have any breaks. We usually have a break kind of midway, but we're just going to roll through because we only have 3 slides left, and then we will hold questions to the end. So the PA1 AQM August update, there were several occurrences of, again, the surpass of the PEL. but they were only for, under 20 minutes or less. And there was just one that was a bit higher on the 26th. And then the 2.5 levels similarly were all 18 minutes or less. And again, the contractor does get an alert once there is an increase, and then they resolve it through the mitigation techniques that we've identified in previous presentations. And again, none of the exceedances surpassed the 24-hour time-weighted average PEL for the month of August. As you could see, it was, for under 20 minutes on most occasions. For project area 2, for the AQM, the PEL for 15 minutes was surpassed on 2 occasions. And one of those on the 12th was for about 58 minutes due to a stage truck for the asphalt paving operation. And there were flaggers there that directed the public away from those trucks. And then the other surpass on the 18th and the 19th were after hours when there was not construction activity. Oops. Okay, so for what we've heard, the contractor has been working on the lighting within the park. And one of the areas that there were having lighting issues on was around the track. So at this point, it is going to take a bit of time for the contractor to fix that. So there has been temporary lighting installed. So there's 4 temporary lights installed at 6th Street, one at 6th Street, just kind of south of the track. One kind of along, you could see it's kind of along the greenway near the track south gate, one near the track north gate, and then one on near where 8th Street kind of hits the park, to say, just north of the track. So those temporary lights have been put in, and the contractor again has been taking a look at the lighting in the whole park. But we are happy to say that this week the temporary lights were put in there. So now we can take questions.
Wendy?
Hi, can we go back to the air monitoring slide?
Sure, Wendy, for PA1?
PA1.
Sure.
Sorry, I just took a bite of a pear. You used
Fine.
to say where the exceedances occurred, and it stopped sometime this summer. I went back and looked. When did you stop reporting where this occurred?
Yeah, because we have so many monitors out there. It would be a really long list to have them all. But if that type of breakdown is preferred, we could put which monitors it, or like where the occurrence was in the park.
Well, like at Montgomery, 1 month you had 8 there, and then you added more monitors there. Are these occurring in the same locations, and are you doing more to kind of reduce to monitor what's going on in those spots?
The contractor monitors the work and what's happening, throughout the project area. These were occurring again throughout the project area. It wasn't all at one specific location. So it depends on where the work is for that. So it might be, again, if there was, where they're doing a lot of, work during this period of time, where they were perhaps where they were doing the demo, or where they're doing the soil borings, the soil stabilization. So it's happening throughout the kind of PA1 construction site.
So, because my biggest concern is where, of course, people are living or in the park, and how does this impact them? Were there any sound or noise or vibration complaints? You used to report those on PA2 as well.
There weren't when the I think everyone's aware when the demolition was happening where the flood wall is going to go by Montgomery Street. There were some noise complaints there, especially when we had to do the night work. Fortunately, the contractor has, found a way that they could do the work during the day so that they haven't had to do the night work. That's not to say that, hopefully it will stay that way. But they have really tried to limit the work that they're doing, especially the pile work in that in that area, for daytime activities. So while, once they got moved to the daytime, again, I think there were a couple of noise complaints when they were doing that demo work. But there hasn't been an exceedance of, there hasn't been a lot of noise complaints, no.
So you are monitoring noise. Can that be included in the reports that go up on the website, please?
That has been requested before, and we had responded that that is not what the project is putting forth. We put forth the air monitoring. I could take that back again, but I think that has been asked in previous CAG meetings and community board meetings. I think it also was asked in a written letter as well. And that type of information is not part of the releasing of monitoring information for the project.
So one last question about air stuff and noise. You said that parallel conveyance has its notice to proceed.
Correct.
And I know much of that work happens along Avenue D for 4 years of work. And I wonder what monitoring is planned and how is the community being notified about that?
Sure. So as mentioned, once that parallel conveyance team gets a little bit more activated, there will be a more in-depth presentation on, there will be more updates made on parallel conveyance. Right now, we're reporting on project area 1 and 2, and then once parallel conveyance gets to a point, then, there will be support and preparation for parallel conveyance meetings, or meetings that include parallel conveyance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Diane?
Hi, Desiree. I have a PA1 and a PA2 question.
Okay.
So for PA2, I had a chance to walk through Astor Levy Park a few weeks ago, and I saw sadly that some of the new trees seem to have really not done well during our heat wave. Maybe you reported out on this to CB6, but what happens now and who's taking care of those new plantings?
Yeah, so there are kind of warranty periods for the plants, and I could report back on what those specifically are. But these trees were planted once, so I believe that there will be kind of a replacement of any trees that did not make it through the heat wave. I could come back with more information on when that might happen. But again, it's my understanding that there is kind of a replacement period for the plants that do not.
Desiree is Camry. I can confirm that for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Okay. And then that'll be the same situation in East River Park. I'm sure this isn't the last horrible summer we're going to have.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
And then any plant that does not make it through, especially those trees that you're looking at, that possibly will die if they haven't already. Some of them have already died. There will be a replanting to replace those trees. Unfortunately, the planting has to be done within the planting season,
right,
and also on the availability of that specific species of trees. So there is a program to replant, but there is a chance that we may just cut them down to the bottom right now, to the ground, and replant at a later time, or it may just stay up there. But however, just be mindful, it will be replanted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then in project area 1, it looks like there's one section of flood wall standing in the lower half of the park, just south of the fireboat house.
Mhm.
Is that
So they
that
do,
correct?
so there are mock-ups of the flood wall inside the park.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So similar to Project Area 2, this happened with Project Area 2 as well. The contractor has to do a mock-up with the concrete, the materials to make sure the forms work. So they have to do a mock-up to get that approved before they actually start constructing the actual wall.
I see. So once the pilings are in place, then the real thing can go in, but that's just temporary for the moment.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the wall, similar to Project Area 2, will get, cast in place. So they will be pouring it, right where it needs to go along the greenway. It won't be kind of moved, from the middle of the park to the.
Yes, that's why I was confused.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
you're welcome.
I think Dove was next. Dove?
Sorry, I'm talking to myself there. I thought I hit the unmute button. I apologize. In the last meeting, I believe it was slide number 8 in the presentation, we had a timeline, construction timeline with dark blue, light blue, saying how much work is, what's being actually worked on, what's remaining, and it gives a very good visual representation of what's going on. And I know that we had a slightly different variation of it, but I think it's a little bit, I like the other one a lot better because it really broke down each and every section of what the work was in each phase. And I think it would be good to, it's a little bit more detailed. This is a little bit more higher level. And if we always use the same format, we have something to compare it to. But if we keep changing the format on that same information, it's hard to compare and contrast the two, sheets.
Yeah.
Oh.
So this we're moving forward. We're going to, for presentations, we're going to move forward with the graphic representation. The schedule that was provided at the last, I think it was at the last CAG meeting, we provided an update, is still online and current. And that would just, you could just move the progress along, as we're moving through the project. But for the presentations, we're moving to, similar to PA2, to kind of a more graphic presentation of the
Are we going to be able to get that updated, the construction timeline from the other, like have that at least updated, presented like quarterly to us so that we're able to at least have that? Because it definitely gives a lot more information than this graphic version. I mean, I'm just looking at, like, for instance, it says breaks down the bridge demo, Corey Horse Park, bridge demolition, remove excavation. I mean, it breaks down phase 1 into approximately 14 subcategories. Phase 2 also into about 11, and it just breaks it all down in a much more detailed information.
So Desiree, that progress schedule is intended for the project management on the construction and use. It's not intended for the general public. What you have here, this graphic, is fully intended for the general public so they can understand the phasing of the project and how things are going to move along. I strongly believe this is sufficed for the community needs.
I'm not sure what.
This was something
the
that the
difference in
CAG members had
information.
specifically asked for. So, I mean, if there's a way that we can maybe have both, I think that would be more ideal, because the CAG specifically wanted like that Gantt chart, very detailed information. So we can figure out how we can maybe maintain both.
On the construction, and we will look into it, and we will let Desiree know so we can keep the update. But we're not foreseeing providing that as an update, as Desiree mentioned. That graphic is still on the website and it's current. We don't expect it to change very much. So if there's a need, it's there on the network. Thank you.
And the other item is I'll just restate what was said earlier about the parallel conveyance. This is going to be in all of our, front yards and backyards, and the noise, the constructions, where trucks are going to be, prepping and all that. I mean, I think it's definitely very important that before the construction's about to start, that we have a handle on it and are able to, do what we can on our end as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robin?
Thanks. Hi, Desiree. Looking at this chart, either way, however it's presented, so, being on track, I have two questions. One is about the chart, and one's about Delancey Street, but we know that it's supposed to be in sections, right? So if the southern end is not completed when they're ready to open the northern end, will that then delay the northern end being worked on?
42% of the park of the open space will remain open
At all times,
at
right?
all times. So that's how, there's that, it's not a clean, we finish one half, we close the other half. There are, in the construction approach, and that's why there's the overlap, kind of in this area, which we have received several questions on. Why is there an overlap? And again, we tried to break it down kind of, East River Park south of Grand Street, and then Grand Street to Stanton Street, to kind of show that it is happening, there's sub phases to the two main phases. So again, this follows the construction approach, which is also still online, again, from when we presented it from the beginning of the project, which breaks down the sections more graphically so you could see what will be opening and closing. And then, yes, 42% will be maintained.
I still don't see too much signage, on the approaches to the park about what's open and not open. I really talked about that in previous meetings. I did come upon Delancey Street where the footbridge used to be the other day, actually on my bicycle, and it's very dangerous. I don't know if that can be looked at as to really make sure that cars can still enter the FDR Drive access road and get on the FDR from there. So it seemed really dangerous to me because people are still crossing, north and south at that point, and there's just a much longer, bigger wall there, but I didn't see a stop sign, and there's nothing painted, to indicate that people are crossing there. So it does, if there's any way that could be looked at, that'd be helpful. Again, the pathway all along,
Yeah, we could take another look and bring that up with DOT again as well, that area. Yeah.
Thank you.
Charles.
Sorry, hi Desiree. I was just over in East River Park about an hour ago, and I noticed there was a lot of cars and trucks that are running down the Esplanade that had construction guys in it, and each one had a single guy in it, and there was at least a dozen that went by while people were running and walking and bicycling by, and people have to pay Dodge with it. Is it possible to have them reduce that traffic somehow so that they could ride with each other or something? There was just one person in each vehicle that I observed.
Yeah, so I think at around 3 or 3:30 is when the Con Ed work that's happening in Reach J in the north end of the park. So there's that Con Ed work that's up here, and I believe that's when they all go home. So we can certainly, bring it up to that project. I don't know if were they construction trucks or like personal vehicles that were?
I mean, some were pickup trucks, some were personal trucks. Yeah. They weren't, they didn't have signs on them.
They didn't have like logos on it. Yeah. No. I believe that's the workers that are up there. Again, that work is, from what Parks had mentioned, that work should wrap up at the end of this year. Paul or Tara, I don't know if you received any new updates from Parks, but I know that that's what they had reported previously, that work was kind of scheduled to wrap up this year. We could certainly, again, pass that, that along, but I think people do, come in with, with their own vehicles there. So I think that's that, when they all leave to go home, but we could pass that along to them.
Yeah, it's just a little dangerous with, everybody on the Esplanade at the same time, and them.
Yeah, they're supposed to be driving, everybody who drives on the Esplanade, I think is supposed to be driving 5 miles an hour with their flashers on. And we have tried to remind everybody of that, but we could certainly do, another reminder and then, pass along that comment to
Hey,
Parks.
Desiree Damri. We will ask the construction team to look into that, understanding that a lot of these vehicles, if they are possibly used by the contractor, they will not have a logo on the side because they may have just non-commercial plates. And if that's the case, they're not going to have the company logo or any kind of signage on it, because they also considered to use on any other parkway which is not commercial zone. But we will look into it. We will try to figure out exactly what it is, and we could possibly give an update at the next meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just surprised at the number of them. There were at least a dozen that I saw in a very short period of time that were, I was just surprised about the numbers. Thank you.
Wendy.
I have a couple of comments. I want to respond to the Gantt chart, the detailed constructions chart, not being for the public. All of us commented on it. And I thought that's because it was such a useful chart. It answers many of the questions people have about what's happening in the park. So not only do I encourage it to stay on the webpage, but please add a link to it or a QR code to this chart on page 11. And in the future, keep it there so people can see for themselves what's going on. It's not a secret, right?
Yeah, Wendy, it's still on the website. It's not going to be taken down. So it is still there.
I know, but there's many pages on the website. Could you say where it is on the website? Is it on the under construction? Is it on the, there's dozens of pages now, and you're very familiar with them. But
it's last month's. It's only on. I only see it on last month's meeting on page slide 8. And yes, I had to look it up myself during the meeting because I couldn't find it quickly but I knew it was on last meeting. That's why I went there.
Yeah, there's a project updates page. That's where all the construction information is on the website. There's 4 tabs on the top of the website about project updates, community engagement, and contact. Project updates is where all of the construction information is saved. So on that home page, it breaks down project area 1, and then there's a link to the preliminary construction approach and the construction timeline and the construction timeline update. And then and we will put this graphic timeline up there as well. And then there's project area 2 and the project area 2 timeline. There's links to the advisories and bulletins and the updated areas of work, which we have to update for project area 2 this week. Now that Murphy Brothers started. But
so that's where the Gantt chart will be located. And
it's already there. There's a link in the
And I just
first
put the
paragraph.
link in the chat.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Paula.
Yep.
Okay. And I have a couple other questions.
Yep.
Now we have dewatering underway for 5 years, the asbestos removal, which was supposed to be, it's a 6 weeks project, so it's probably coming to an end soon, I would assume. Do either of those items add to the budget for this project?
No.
So they're included in the original bid that the contractor made, the bid amount, correct?
Correct.
Award
Yeah,
amount.
I'll double check that, but the dewatering is definitely included, and I'll double check on the asbestos.
So
Thank you.
the dewatering is included. The asbestos work is not included. However, there is contingency money in the contract to compensate for it. So yes, it's part of the budget in a sense.
How much of the contingency money does the asbestos removal use? What percentage?
We don't have the dollar value. It would have to be analyzed for the detail of the work and the effort that was put into it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And last month you showed us a breakdown, maybe it was the month before, of where the employees came from in PA2 and what borough or outside the city. And PA1, you were going to bring us the numbers for. Are those numbers ready yet?
So we're anticipating that in October, that's the next quarterly update. So we're anticipating that we will hopefully have them for PA1 for October.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions from the CAG?
No, none here from Don.
Okay, well then I think we can adjourn this portion of the meeting. Thank you, Desiree and Damri and team.
Great. Thanks, Paula, and everyone else today. Thank you.
Yep. So let's take a 1.5 minute break or bio break as a transition before we have the CAG only portion of the meeting. See you in 2 minutes. Hi again, everyone. So let's reconvene. Before we get into any content, I want to take a moment and welcome our newest CAG member, Shanique Seeley. Shanique represents, may not even be on, she was here earlier, but Shanique represents Waterside Plaza Management. But I don't think I see her anymore. But we don't have a very long agenda. So, you know, as is often the case during the CAG only portion, we can open it up for anything that people wanted to raise. We're kind of under the impression that there aren't too many hot topics bubbling, just because at least it's been relatively quiet for the last few weeks. I haven't heard from many of you, or very few of you, but just wanted to make sure that that tracks with y'all, and again, give you the chance to bring up any concerns that you haven't raised already. I'm opening the floor.
Robin?
I forgot to mention this also to Desiree, but you know, because there's been changes like in Corlear's Hook, I was in Corlear's Hook the other afternoon and noticed that there's only one wheelchair accessible entrance now at the very, it's hard to tell, southern end. So if you were to try to enter the park from Grand Street and come around, you would have to go an entire block's length before you could get into the park with a wheelchair or any other handicap accessible way. I think there was an entrance that was handicap accessible that's been fenced off now. So that's something I noticed. I forgot to mention today, but I just noticed a lot in the community that those, you know, that there's really still not a lot of signage about where you can enter and how you can enter the park, and that's still missing. And but that I noticed was, again, I think they need to figure out an accessible ramp on the entrance closest to the Grand Street corner. And again, you know, concerns about just the safety of Delancey Street and signage. Thank you.
Wendy?
Thanks. So about an hour ago, I forwarded the response to the foil that Tommy got after Tara and Paula asked me to get permission to share it with you all from Tommy. And, you know, it's a 133-page report. And like I said, I'm not an expert. I know to look at the, you know, recommendations and conclusions, but does this group want to see if we can get an independent expert to review it? I mean, it's important information that impacts community health. And maybe there's an expert in this group, I don't know.
If there's an appetite for it, maybe you all can email us, but I know you just got the report. It's likely anyone had a chance to really look through yet. So maybe we take this to email to see if there's an interest.
I'm also wondering about attendance. How are we doing on that?
Right now,
we're having a little trouble reaching the people who just kind of never or very rarely attended, but you know, up and down, but making progress. I see some people here today who haven't been to meetings in a while. We had a vacancy on for Peter Cooper Stuytown Management because the person who was in that position, I guess, left his job. So we were able to replace him with a new member, Ray Moya. However, Ray was not able to be here today. making some progress.
And we don't have any, there's no, okay, thank you. I hope that people will come because this is important stuff to the community.
Tara, can I turn it over to you to bring up the other few things we talked about bringing up?
Sure. So our understanding is that, well, we know that the governor did not extend the emergency orders, which allowed for remote meetings. We know that so the community board seem to be moving towards in-person meetings starting next month. I did want to let you all know that for the moment right now, we are not contemplating for various reasons, mainly logistical. We would like to continue doing these meetings virtually. Maybe we revisit that at some other date, but we wanted to let you all know that right now we are going to continue to meet virtually. The time right now will remain as well, but in us trying to gauge or get, really target exactly why we're seeing low attendance, that might change. But we are going to be doing some outreach individually just to get a sense of what might be keeping people from attending the meetings, which might impact the meeting time. But right now we will still continue to meet virtually. And I think, was that it?
Yeah, Tara, I was writing stuff down, but did you mention that if anyone has?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. And if you are absolutely opposed and really would like to meet in person, please, you can email us. I imagine that this might be more convenient for folks. I just, being that we want to keep the frequency of the meetings to be monthly, considering the fact that we do stream these live for observation, considering that there are various people that need to be in attendance at these meetings, right now it just makes more sense that we continue to meet virtually, trying to locate a location every month, then have a video set up and a Wi-Fi set up in order to do all of that right now is just logistically would be really difficult. And we still acknowledge that we are still in a pandemic, so we would like to continue to meet virtually. But again, if anyone is absolutely opposed, please feel free to email us and we can see what we can do moving forward. Wendy?
Sorry. Over the weekend, the Army Corps of Engineers put out, talked about this new plan for harbor-wide storm protection. And I wonder if sometime in the next, and I know it's all brand new, but can the CAG have a presentation about this and how does ESCR impact it and vice versa?
We can take that back to DDC.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Can I say one more thing since no one else has raised their hands? Somebody, I'm sorry, I just saw it quickly flash by. Somebody responded, they still had a FOIL they hadn't gotten a response to today. How many of us have FOILs that we related to this project that we do not have responses to? Is there any kind of a chart or sheet where we're tracking those?
To my understanding, apart from what Sam, who was not able to attend today, emailed us, we're not aware. If there are some outstanding FOILs that have been made, please feel free. I did reach out to Sam separately to say that if there are some FOILs he hasn't gotten a response to related to ESCR, to send me those numbers and we would follow up with DDC on them. So if there are any, obviously if you all filed the FOIL like last week or last month, you might want to wait a little bit longer, but 2019, you should have had some sort of response by now. So we would be willing to follow up with you all. But again, some of you might, that is if you want to be escalated. Some people are foiling on their behalf for whatever reasons. That doesn't mean it's necessarily, we appreciate that you all share the full response from that FOIL because there was interest from the CAG members, but none of you are obligated to share any FOIL requests that you don't want us to intervene on or share the results of. sorry, thanks for okay, it looks like at least virtually, yes, people are still in support of us meeting virtual, which, yes, I agree. But again, if folks are completely opposed, we can maybe see about, yeah, maybe in the future, revisiting this, but right now we would like to continue virtual. If there is nothing else, are we going to finish in an hour? And I give you all an hour of your lives back. Again, this is, as Paula mentioned, there has been communication over the past month. There hasn't been a ton. So, we are assuming that, we know that there's still outstanding questions, but there aren't other items that haven't been raised to us that we aren't addressing. So if there are, obviously during the month, please reach out to us. We will follow up on some of the items that were mentioned today at the meeting. Charles? Oh, Martin, sorry. I'm looking at Charles and I said Martin. I mean, the voice starts.
Yeah, one of the things that Desiree had mentioned was that 42% of the East River Park was going to be open at all times. Certainly not 42% of Stuyvesant Cove Park has been open. We have maybe 10% that allows people to walk to the ferry, and that's it. So take it with a grain of salt, sand, dirt.
But I agree, Marty, that they went back on their agreement to keep half of the park open. But what they said when they told us that they were going to close the southern half of the park early was that because they had reopened Asher Levy Park and Murphy Brothers was still open and it was all part of the same project area. Therefore, that contributed to the 42% and they were within their rights. And I looked at the agreement and that is what it says, is it doesn't say for half of Stuyvesant Cove Park. I think with East River Park, like it's a different situation because it's basically one very large park that they probably can't close. But yeah, that is the reason that they felt they were within their rights to close off Stuyvesant Cove Park. It was not what we wanted, any of us, I don't think. And I think they were kind of sneaky about it, but that's the rationale, just so everyone understands what happened.
The devil in the details.
Indeed.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dina. So if there is nothing else, you get 59 minutes of your time back. Thank you all.
Thanks for letting me sit in. Have a good day.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good month.
Thank you.